All right, well, I think it's time to get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Stacy Brennan and I'm the Curator of Education for the Lehigh University Art Galleries. We are joined today by Summit Wallace, Anthony Esposito, and Trevor Thenga for this week's program, LUAG at Lunch, which is a student-led series that explores works of art from the Lehigh University Art Gallery collection through conversation, different perspectives, and discussions, as well as presentations, which we have all stored on our website. Today, we're going to talk about outdoor art. And as the sun begins to peer out of the clouds, it looks like it's going to be a great weekend to explore the outdoor art collection, sculpture collection on Lehigh's campus. We have close to 52 sculptures on campus, and today we're going to explore 3 of them with Summit, Anthony, and Trevor. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. If people would like to make comments throughout, you can unmute yourself or put comments in the chat box. We are recording today's session, so just a heads up about that. So I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead, take it, Summit.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. Welcome to Outdoor Art, exploring Lehigh's notorious outdoor sculptures with myself. I'm currently a junior at Lehigh, studying finance and management.
I'm also a junior as well. Likewise, I'm also studying finance.
And I'm also a junior studying finance. Kind of funny how we're all in the business school and this is an art class, but I think I speak for the whole group when I say it's really been a nice class, just switching the pace, looking at something besides numbers.
So just looking at the temple to start off, is there anybody, based on first impressions, is there anything that stands out or that you notice that jumps right off the bat? All right, well, I'll give some background info and then maybe that'll spark some interest in your mind. So this sculpture was made by Muriel Unger. It was made in 1987. She mainly focused on large scale sculpture art, such as a piece like this. It was donated by the Berman family. As we go further in our presentation, you'll notice that the Berman family donated a lot of outdoor art to Lehigh. They've done a great job doing that, and they're very fortunate to have those works here. Thanks to them. So a fun fact here is that this piece was actually destroyed in Hurricane Sandy. Originally, it was a white sculpture. It was painted white, not this bright burnt orange that you see now. So a tree fell on it. Lehigh sent it out to get renovated by one of the original consultants who worked with Unger on the original piece. So it went out to Boston, and when it came back, they renovated it completely, and now it's this bright burnt orange. And just looking at this piece physically, I know when I first came to Lehigh, when I was walking around campus touring, it's definitely catches your eye right away. It's about 9 feet tall, and you can actually walk inside this piece. So on the opposite side of this, so this picture would be on the opposite back side of the sculpture, you can actually walk inside and look up. So when you go inside and look up, you kind of get all the convex symmetry of all these circles rising. It's all webbed together, and you can kind of look up and look at the sky and look at the trees, and it's actually a beautiful setting right on Lehigh's campus. And even now, especially in the fall, when with the leaves changing and all the colors, if you really get a chance to go inside the sculpture and look up at the trees, it's definitely beautiful. As for some of the feelings that this piece invokes, does anyone have anything, how it makes them feel right off the bat?
I would say
fun and bubbly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I just said it's very fun and bubbly looking.
Yeah, I completely agree. This piece is definitely, I know Unger went for kind of a spirituality feel to this piece. There's definitely a lot of continuity here, a lot of balance, a lot of symmetry involved here. I would definitely agree. It's definitely a very warm and inviting piece. And I think that's kind of what she went for here, with the fact that you can actually walk inside. So I think when you view it visually from afar, you kind of want to get that feeling of you want to go closer and really look at it more. And then as you get closer, you can actually notice that you can actually walk inside the piece. And I think that just going off of that with the whole symmetry and the balance, I think this is a very important piece, and kind of why I chose it was that I think for a lot of Lehigh students, we spend a lot of time studying, a lot of time pushing ourselves and spending a lot of time in the library and doing the best we can. But I think if we could just bring some of this balance to our everyday life, it would go a long ways. So is there anything else that anyone else notices about this piece? Summit, I know you had something to say.
I was just going to touch on the idea of like, it really does give me a sense of serenity. And I think that it also has to do with the placement of the sculpture, just like you said, in the beautiful trees and on campus. For whatever reason, it just, I don't know, when I look at it, it almost gives me peace of mind, which is kind of impressive in a sculpture.
Yeah, absolutely. Caroline, you took your microphone off for a sec.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember the first time I was on campus, this was like one of the first things that stood out to me on like main campus was this sculpture, because I remember thinking it like doesn't look like it fits with the rest of campus. Like to me, it looks very bold and futuristic, which up against the like old architecture of the buildings just really stood out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys aren't familiar where this piece is located, it's actually kind of in the center of campus, right near the front lawn. And obviously in the front lawn, we have Linderman Library, the UC, which is very old college style, historic with all the brick. So this piece definitely does stand out, but it's definitely a great location just for that reason, and that you definitely are attracted to it and you want to come forward and learn more. And I would definitely recommend to anybody, if you ever get the chance to go actually stand inside the sculpture itself and get a chance to look up at the trees and all the leaves, and it gives you a great perspective. I think we can move on to the next sculpture we have.
Okay, so I chose Love by Robert Indiana. I really like this piece because I think the theme of love is really important, especially in today's world with everything going on. It's a really strong feeling that people can have, and it's really important to kind of embrace this. So kind of to start the conversation, does anyone have any initial thoughts or things that stick out from this sculpture?
Well, I'm from right outside of Philadelphia, and I know that there's a larger version of this in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually, when I first saw the sculpture, I thought it was kind of a continuation of Philadelphia, the ones they have there. But when I learned more about it, I actually was able to inform myself. My initial thoughts for the red, it really stood out to me. It would kind of symbolize romance and passion, since the word is love. I also thought it would mean kind of to love another person or an animal maybe. And also going back to Philadelphia, I really like kind of had this sculpture and Philadelphia together. I thought that that's where it started, but I was wrong. Next slide. So when I learned more about this, I've learned that the sculpture was actually a collection that was started in the 1970s by Mr. Indiana. Growing up, he was really intrigued with the word love. He had a very Christian upbringing and went to a Christian Science church where the only decoration in the whole building was actually red lettering that said "Love is God." So he kind of made this connection at a young age, and it kind of took it a religious way for him. He also started it as a Christmas card, actually. He started out as a painting that you can see there on the right, and then they turned that into a Christmas card that was sent around in Indiana in 1964. I also learned that the red lettering is actually a tribute to his father, who worked at Phillips 66, which is pictured on the left. He was a gas station worker there during the Great Depression, and he unfortunately passed away. So it was a tribute to him. The blue and green are also symbolic. The green stands for the land of Indiana, and the blue stands for the sky in Indiana. These were also both donated by the Berman family. I also found it really interesting that these pieces are found worldwide. There's ones in United States, obviously, in Asia and France. In Spain, there's actually one that says amor, which is love in Spanish. So I found that really interesting also. So now that you guys have a bit of background, is there anything that has changed about your perception or anything that you now know?
At first, when I saw it, I kind of just thought it was a copy of the one in Philly. So knowing this backstory makes it a little more personal.
Yeah, I was the same exact way.
I'm definitely more intrigued by the color scheme. I don't know, when I initially saw it, I didn't think about the colors as much. I just kind of saw the word love. And when you described the origins of the colors and how you decided to choose which colors and how the colors have developed throughout the sculptures, I don't know, now all I see is the colors. So that's interesting.
Yeah, very. Anything else? Anything that stands out now?
When you said that this was like being sent around as a Christmas card, I just assumed that the red and green, that's what it was like symbolic of. But then when you said the whole like the green stood for the land and the blue was for the sky, that just gave like a deeper meaning to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I find that interesting how we could all have different interpretations from the artist who made the artwork.
With that said, like you said, there's these sculptures all throughout the world. Are they all made by the same guy, or I'm sure there's some copycats? Or
Yeah, there are some copycats. The one at Lehigh is actually a look-alike. So I'm not sure if I don't think it's from Robert specifically. No, it is not.
No, you're right. He has a foundry that works with him. So he has apprentices that create kind of copies of his work or duplicates.
Nice. Okay, if there's nothing else, then I will pass it on to Summit.
okay, I will be discussing the sacrifice of Isaac. I'm sure most people have seen this sculpture on campus. It's kind of in between the business school and the Taylor Gym, if you're walking there. Like initially you see a ram and a person almost intertwined. So this is made by Manishi Kadishman in 1986. It is made purely of steel. And as said previously, it is a gift from Philip and Muriel Berman. So like I said, when I see this, I kind of see like a ram and then a human almost intertwined. I guess my question for everyone is, do you see a ram or a human, or both, or neither, something else entirely? Any comments?
Yeah, when I first saw this, actually, just because it's near the business school, I actually thought it was like the school's rendition of the Wall Street Bull, like a sculpture of the Wall Street Bull. So I actually had no idea that it was a religious piece. So that's pretty interesting. I actually don't see like the human at all, but I know that the background there says that it definitely has some connotations to religious story involving.
Yeah, so to give some background, Manishi Kadishman on the right-hand side. I really like this picture for some reason. He just seems so wise and old. But anyways, he was born in Israel, studied in London, where his art career kind of took flight. And he was awarded numerous prizes for his artwork throughout his life, including the Israel Prize, which is basically the country's top honor. There's basically no higher honor in Israel with regards to art. So very accomplished man. And on the left-hand side, we have another depiction of the sacrificing of Isaac. So Manishi Kadishman, like I said, is from Israel, and he was very religious, and you can see this throughout basically all of his artwork. You can see even in that picture with him, he has another depiction of the sacrificing of Isaac. So some background on the sacrificing of Isaac. Basically, this was Abraham was told by God to sacrifice his son. If he were to do so, he would basically reach enlightenment. And so basically God was testing his faith, his loyalty, and Abraham was willing to do so. He was going to kill his son in the name of God. And just before doing so, an angel actually came down and stopped this horrific act. And God came down again and said, now you fear me, now I can trust you. And in the end, he ended up sacrificing a ram instead of his son in the name of God. God no longer needed the human flesh, but instead just the flesh of an animal. So with that said, I'm sure this sculpture kind of makes a little more sense, just given Kadishman's background with religion and the sacrificing of Isaac. So I guess that's where I see this, both a ram and the human almost intertwined. I don't know, I guess my question is, was Kadishman kind of like this inner turmoil between whether, the human or the ram should have been sacrificed, or I don't know, is there any thoughts going forward now that you have that background? No? Espo, Trevor?
I just thought that like they both look kind of angry, the bull and the human. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I see that anger as well. I mean, they were being sacrificed in the name of God, so that could have been what that was. I wish I had like some insight into like Kadishman's head, just to what he was thinking. And I don't know, I find it interesting that the human ends up on the bottom, almost as if he was dominated like by the ram, which is strange because in the end it was the ram who was sacrificed and it was the human who was spared. So, but in this depiction, it almost looks as if the human was the one who ended up like dead and the ram looks more alive. So I find that interesting. I wonder what Kadishman's thought process behind that was. Also, when I first saw this sculpture, it almost looks like the entire sculpture could be like rotated in just like a circular, I don't know, that's what I saw. It almost looks like you could move the whole thing upside down, as if they are like very, very much so interconnected.
Yeah, I think just looking at it more so now, definitely kind of shows that the ram, just based on facial expressions of both, like I'm kind of starting to see the human on the bottom now. Like when the human has the open mouth, I think when a lot of times when you have an open mouth, it kind of signifies that you're almost like in shock or awe, and like you're kind of taken aback. And as for the ram, it has like the downward slanting eyes, which definitely, I know just based on that it kind of signifies a little bit more of anger. And normally when artists depict eyes with that kind of angle, like pointing down like that, it's normally like an angrier piece. So I definitely think the human being on the bottom, you can kind of see that he's a little bit more in shock, whereas the ram's on top and he's kind of angry.
Any other comments with regards to this sculpture?
I was going to say, I appreciate that you said, Summit, that it kind of looks like you could tap it and it might spin around. It almost looks like a pinwheel in a certain way, that it's interesting how he captured motion, even though this is a stationary piece, right? So that was interesting to me. Even with this like hard steel, it looks like it could still be kind of tapped and set in motion.
Yeah, I think you said that perfectly. Just his ability to be able to express motion in a purely steel, motionless object. That is very impressive.
Is there a human head like on the bottom of it? Because I didn't even notice that until someone pointed it out. But I feel like that changes my entire like perception of the piece, because initially I didn't see that and it looked to me just like a ram with legs, which is why I was kind of confused. But now that I see like the human head on the bottom, it completely gives a new meaning to it.
Right. And I hope I didn't like sway everyone's thoughts too much, because I could be totally wrong. That's just what I see. That's where I keep reiterating this fact of like the intertanglement between the two, because you know, the ram's legs look like his arms. Maybe that's not even a human face on the bottom. That's just the way I saw it. You know, I don't know. Like, it's almost as if the ram's legs could be the human's arms, but the ram's horns could be the human's legs. I don't know. It's interesting. Okay, with that, I guess we would leave you with just kind of a couple question or a couple thought-provoking statements. One thing that all of our sculptures had in common was this idea of religion or spirituality intertangled within the sculpture. And we see this a lot throughout art. So I guess our question is, you know, when you look at art going thus forth, are you going to be thinking of religion or spirituality, or did you already think of those things? Just some things to think about. I don't know, doing this presentation and studying these sculptures just really made me aware of the fact of how, you know, how substantial religion and spirituality can be within sculptures or any other art forms, and the ability of the artist to depict that in sculptures or other art is very impressive, very fascinating. Any other comments, Trevor, Espo?
No, I completely agree. Because like just looking at the sculptures, like you wouldn't really think of any of them to be like religious or spiritual. So it's really cool to kind of get like the background knowledge and see like what the artist was trying to do.
Yeah, I completely. Yeah, totally. I think a lot of times too, just in everyday life, we kind of look at things at face value, and then when you kind of learn, you know, the backstory behind everything and what people are really trying to portray, it tells a totally different story. And I think that's something that even besides looking at art, you can just take every day with you. Kind of the whole "don't judge a book by its cover" thing until you know everything. And I think we kind of saw that today by just looking at all these pieces of art and kind of understanding the background and the history of what the artist was going for. Can tell a totally different story.
All right, I guess with that, our presentation is concluded. Remember, with this nice weather, to go out and explore the outdoor sculptures. I don't know, yeah, like get in touch with your spirituality, I guess.
Thank you, Summit, Anthony, and Trevor. We appreciate your insights into these sculptures. And, you know, I really think you left us with a great thing to think about, that there's a lot out there. And, you know, as we explore art and just things that we find in our environment, learning more about them gives us greater insight into the world around us. So with that, I hope that everyone enjoys their weekend and goes out to enjoy the sculptures on campus, as well as our outdoor Greenway exhibition. Meet us back here next week. We have 2 more presentations with fellow students in the teaching in the museum class. You can find all of the recordings of these presentations on our website at www.luag.org. And you can also view sculptures from our collection as well as works of art from the collection on our site. So we hope you'll take advantage of that and that you have a great weekend. Thank you all for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.